And we're live, Warden Danielson.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. CAO, could you take a roll call, please?
Warden Danielson.
Present.
Councillor Moffat.
Present.
Councillor Roberts.
Present.
Councillor Kennedy.
Present.
And Councillor Burton is not with us today. Councillor Ryle.
Present.
Councillor DeVolen.
Present.
And Councillor Shell.
Present.
Thank you.
We respectfully acknowledge that the County of Haliburton is located on Treaty 20 Mishi-Saugig territory and in the traditional territory of the Mishi-Saugig and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We acknowledge a shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original Indigenous inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Could I have a mover and a seconder for the agenda, please, to adopt the agenda? Councillor DeVolen and Moffat.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that the May 11th, 2022 Haliburton County Committee of the Whole agenda be approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any notice of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof today? Hearing none, we have no delegations. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of April the 13th? Councillor Kennedy and Roberts.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that the minutes from the April 13th, 2022 meeting of Haliburton County Committee of the Whole be adopted as circulated.
Favor? That's carried. We have no correspondence, so we'll move into roads. And we have 3 reports, so we'll bring in Robert. Good morning, Mr. Sutton.
Good morning, Warden. Good morning, Council.
So you have 3 reports. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Our first report is our monthly status report for the month of May. In our capital projects, Council may be aware or driving through some construction zones. We've got some projects starting on a couple of our bridges already, and a couple other projects are waiting for some documentation or locates. So going to be a busy construction season with structures this year. On our maintenance side, our staff have started culverts on County Road 1. So those are culverts that our staff are replacing, and then they'll move over to County Road 11 to replace culverts there. That's in preparation for the upcoming road work. So we try to do any culverts that we can for efficiencies and cost saving measures. And the larger ones like County Road 16, we tendered out. I think that's everything for the a quick update on our status report. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Any questions on the status report? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. No, just a comment in terms of things like sweeping and also roadside cleaning. There's lots of organizations that are doing roadside cleanups. My neighborhood included did a section along the county road. And and I know there was an enormous one done up around the Kinesis Lake area on County Road 7. So, you know, thanks to all those groups that get out there and with their vests on and pick up an enormous amount of debris, and particularly things that from the LCBO, if you know what I mean. It's shocking how many people say, I don't drink or drive, and let's chuck it out the window. So I just want to, you know, I think we should acknowledge the amount of people that are doing those works. And just also on the sweeping, really much appreciate. I saw the Head Lake Bridge here in the village of Haliburton is done. There's a lot of people that are out cycling, and particularly walking and cycling, and they do walk on that section of the county road. So it's really nice to make sure the sand is winter sand is being cleaned up. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Excellent comments. Could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the status report? Councillors Shell and Moffat.
Moved by Councillor Shell, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that the May 2022 status report on capital projects, operations, and road maintenance be received for information by Haliburton County Committee of the Whole.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is your pavement markings tender.
Yes, thank you, Warden. And we have our pavement markings tender. We re-tendered this year with a difference in prices. There are other issues going on with supplies and the materials that actually go in the paint. We came in over budget on this tender. We're looking to inventory, or we already started inventorying our pavement markings. We're looking at some cost saving options if they're acceptable to council. We'll bring them back. We're looking at those pavement markings to see if we could save anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 if council would like to look at that. It was reviewed in 2020, I understand, and council did approve at that time, but times may have changed. So we're going through that process, and we'll bring a report back for council's information and direction if appropriate. Right now, we're recommending awarding the whole amount of the contract just to keep things simple and moving. And that's for the $183,442. And I guess that's everything for today, unless there's other questions that council would like for that.
Questions or comments on pavement marking and the amounts? Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder then to move this forward? Councillors DeVolen and Kennedy.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole received the May 11th, 2022 staff report pavement markings tender. And further, that Haliburton County Council, that it be recommended to Haliburton County Council that they award the contract for the supply and application of pavement markings to Provincial Road Markings Incorporated for the bid amount of $183,442.52 plus applicable taxes. And finally, that staff be directed to present a bylaw to Haliburton County Council authorizing the warden and clerk to execute the agreement.
All in favor? That's carried. And finally, your fuel tender. And just a comment, it's good to see that there's some partnering. Too bad there isn't a little more partnering.
No, thank you, Warden. And yes, I should have noted on the pavement marking tenders, there was also coordination as well. So kudos and thanks to our admin assistant Pam and Sil for trying to organize and get people on board for these different tenders as we proceed. So with this tender, Parkland Fuels came in with the best rate. That's a discount on the rack rate, which is rather good as prices are gone up. So everybody else was very close, but with a couple of the companies just adding a bit of a premium to the rack rate, and one other company with just a smaller discount. So we're recommending going with Parkland, and we're monitoring our budget. Fuel is a concern, so we do have $210,000 like allocated for fuel this year, and we're trying to monitor that and see how close we can come to that budgeted amount with the way gas prices are going.
Any questions or comments? Could I have a mover and a seconder to move the fuel tender forward? Councillor Moffat, second by Councillor Kennedy.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole received the May 11th, 2022 staff report, 2022 fuel tender, and further that it be recommended to Haliburton County Council that contract 1 for the supply of bulk diesel and unleaded gasoline, contract 2022-6-A, be awarded to Parkland Fuel Corporation for the bid amount of 0.0175 cents per liter for diesel and 0.0025 cents per liter for gasoline below the rack price. And finally, that staff be directed to present a bylaw to Haliburton County Council authorizing the warden and CAO clerk to execute the agreement.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
I don't believe we have anything under EMS, so we'll move into finance. Bring in our Director of Corporate Services. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning.
See, you've got some reports, so if you want to start with the check register.
Okay, our April check register totaled $2,623,143.67.
Are there any questions on the check register? Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillors Roberts and Rao.
Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Ryle. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole receives for information the staff report on the check register for April 2022. Further, that it be recommended to Haliburton County Council that the check register for April 2022 with checks, EFTs, and PAPs totaling $2,623,143.67 be hereby approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is the payroll register for April.
Yes, we had 2 pay periods in April with net direct deposits totaling $471,242.78.
Are there any questions on the payroll register? Could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report? Councillor Shell and Moffat.
Moved by Councillor Shell, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole receives for information the staff report on the payroll register for April 2022, and that it be recommended to Haliburton County Council that the payroll register for April 2022 with net direct deposits totaling $471,242.78 be hereby approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is the year-to-date actuals report.
As at April 30th, 28.14% of operating expenses have been incurred and 6.25% of capital expenses have been incurred. So as of the end of April, we should be approximately 33% spent.
So we're pretty close to target.
Yes.
Any questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder to receive this report? Councillors DeVolen and Royale, thank you.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Ryle. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole receives for information the staff report on the year-to-date actuals as at April 30th, 2022. And further, that it be recommended to Haliburton County Council that the year-to-date actuals as at April 30th, 2022 be hereby approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is a report on a procurement coordinator and recruitment for that position. I'm not sure, is Andrea, are you giving that report or is Mike?
I can start. Mike can
Okay.
maybe fill in if needed. As you know, we have not yet been able to fill the newly created procurement coordinator position. Hiring this position was an important recommendation from the service delivery review and is required in order to obtain many of the cost savings identified within the review. So within my report, I am recommending an alternative recruitment method in an effort to fill the position. We're recommending we focus our search on candidates with a basic financial background and a willingness to complete the required 2-year program with the Ontario Public Buyers Association. We're also recommending a mentorship and support program agreement with a neighboring municipality to assist the new employee as they develop the procurement policies and processes for the county and local municipalities. I don't know if council has any questions with regards to what's in the report.
Councillor Rao.
Yeah, and just a question that I know we try to bring people from the public sector into where we are, but purchasing is an international across all boundaries. Have we looked at possibly recruiting private sector people in purchasing who would be willing to come to the municipal side?
Yeah, we have not limited our recruitment efforts to any one sector. It has been open to anyone interested.
I think I'll just go to Mike first. He might have something to add to the discussion.
Just, I think one of the individuals that was offered the position actually had a private sector background.
That's correct.
We'll go back to questions. Councillor Roberts, then Councillor Moffat.
Yeah, I think this is really creative thinking, actually, because, you know, you tried. It's a very unique position. I know we filled that position at Dysart, and wasn't on the interview or hiring or anything, so I'm not actually sure of the qualifications that we put out for our job. But there will be more people that will be able to apply for this and qualify, because a lot of people have a good financial sense, and the willingness to learn is kind of exciting for a lot of people. And I totally agree with the financial impact, which is that obviously the person would start at a much lower or a different band because they're the different qualifications. So we're starting them lower, but offering them. So I just would want to make sure that in when we do go for recruitment, that there is some kind of hiring contract. I don't know if there's any sort of, for instance, we hire somebody, they take the 2 years, and then 2 years plus 6 months, they move on. So is there any sort of, Mike, I think I see you smiling, your head's kind of small in the picture, but like, is there any kind of assurance that we would, the investment that we're making in this potential person, would they stay?
Yeah, I think in Andrea's report, she has mentioned that actually, that we would
Yes.
we would look to ensure that some or all of the fees are reimbursed should the employee leave the county. So yeah, I think we would have to determine how much would have to be paid back and what the timelines are. But yeah, I think because of the amount of training that would be involved, it's not just taking a one course or anything like that. It's pretty significant and a fairly significant investment on our part. So yeah, we would look to recover those funds if they leave in a certain amount of time.
Can you tell us who the neighboring municipality might be in this issue?
Well, the one I've spoken to is Peterborough County, who are really seen as a leader in procurement and so yeah, that's who we've spoken to. And they are willing. They've had some staff turnover as well, but they have certainly expressed a willingness to consider an agreement. But nothing has been finalized in that regard. It would come back to County Council for approval.
Councillor Moffat and then Councillor Rao.
Thank you for asking that question. That makes a bit of a difference for me. I confess to struggling a bit, but I appreciate Councillor Roberts' comments about it being innovative, and it is, and the fact that the mentors Peterborough does make a bit of a difference. It just felt to me like we were trying to, show a square peg in a round hole. We've identified that we're interested in going this direction, but are we trying too hard to make it work? I guess that's just sort of a question to the air. We seem to be doing okay right now with collaborative purchasing. I guess I'm looking for the risk reward or the cost benefit. Longer term vision is what we want, and I can see how this would provide for that. But I just have a little concern that, are we trying too hard to make something work that the universe isn't offering up naturally? There are vacancies in municipal jobs all over the place, not just in Haliburton County, but across the province and beyond. So is now the time? Or as Councillor Roberts has said, is it actually a good thinking, innovative strategy, and let's keep going? So I'm kind of sitting in the middle there and looking for thoughts from my colleagues so I can finally land somewhere.
Mike, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I guess the procurement coordinator role is not unique. It exists just about in every municipality. And so I think in terms of, are we trying too hard? If it was a fairly unique skill set, very different role than is in any other municipality, I think I would really ponder that. But this is a fairly standard position. I think we are. I absolutely agree with you that we're doing quite well in procurement, but it's coming at a cost. So as an example, our deputy treasurer has recently been working with the waste management staff on a large RFP to look at an integrated waste management strategy. So we've had direction from council on that. So everybody's, and this is becoming a recurring theme, and I apologize for repeating myself, but we're doing these things off the corner of our desk, and having someone who, this is their job, would be really, really helpful and free up others to do what is really their core responsibility. But I guess so much of the the service delivery review, there were many things that were really required additional investment. And we saw this during this budget process where we added positions, but we hadn't really realized any of the savings that were also contemplated as part of the service delivery review to offset those. And I'm really concerned that we're going to go into another budget in 2023 with a brand new council, many new faces, without those savings as well. And I'm just concerned. I guess that's the reason we're kind of in a let's keep moving on this and try and find someone. So yeah.
Councillor Rowell and then Councillor Roberts.
I'm fine. I think Mike just addressed more or less my concerns, and so thank you very much for that, Mike.
Councillor Roberts.
Okay, thanks. So remind me of the job description. Was it just procurement coordinator, or was there a element to the grants as well? Because that's what we're doing at Dysart, which is really helping. It's helping all the other departments to not look for it. So, you get one grant that you receive $100,000 for, that person's salary is practically covered in 1 year. So there are, and you can't always measure that right away because it doesn't know what's happened, and the grants are hard. So our role at Dysart anyways for grants and procurement. So was that part of the job description at all at the county?
Well, maybe I'll speak to that because it really speaks to the service delivery review. The recommendation in our service delivery review was that the grants writing would be done by a position that was combined with communications. And I think the steering committee has really directed us to hit pause on that. So no, there's no grant writing in this job description at all.
Which might be a bit of a shortcoming in my estimation. I'm not sure that I see that I can really put together the communications part of the service delivery review with grant writing. I sort of see that fitting into finance, but I'll leave that one. I'm sorry to bring up to me, there's a small elephant in the room, and that's the fact that this individual is not going to be serving all 4 municipalities, and I'm not sure how we're going to fold that together.
I think they absolutely are going to be supporting all 5 municipalities. Like they, I'm sorry. Are you meaning that Dysart has a procurement person? Is that
exactly?
Okay.
Yes.
I sorry. I spoke out of turn.
Not sure how that's going to work, in the final picture. Councillor Moffat, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to sort of tag team on what you're saying, and we don't discuss staffing situations to a certain extent in open meetings, but yeah, that is the question. If the purpose of the service delivery review is to have one procurement coordinator in the entire county, we won't have one. And so somebody somewhere has to have a conversation about that.
Councillor Roberts.
Let's sort of hold that thought to the next time we do the service delivery review. Maybe we can speak to that. I know we sort of usually have a very set schedule, but maybe we can make sure that we add that, Mike, if that's possible, because I know the CAOs are talking, and just because Dysart has hired somebody doesn't mean just because some people have an environmental manager and some people only have, I don't know what every local municipality have, what different roles and different, some people have a recreation coordinator, some people don't. So it doesn't mean that they're not talking and working together. It doesn't mean that Dysart will work together. It doesn't mean that whether, line painting, fuel tendering, maybe we should be working a little bit more if the timing is right. So I don't think just because we've hired a role, and our role is very much a part under the the grants and grant managing those grants, and maybe local municipalities are a little more dependent on grants for things like recreation, like even a $20,000 grant that you apply for takes an enormous amount of paperwork. So that's also our person's role. So it doesn't mean that we're not going to play together or work together, if you know what I mean.
Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry for the hesitation, but your name says Mike March.
Well, he is trying to get that promotion. I don't understand, but I wish he'd wait till I at least announce my retirement or something. But my recollection, we did have this conversation at the CAO's level early on in the process. The CAO of Dysart, did assure us that she thought the positions would be complementary as opposed to in conflict, and that she believed that there would be value to Dysart in having the county role as well. So we did have that conversation, and she did not see this as being a duplication. She really felt the roles would be complementary.
Okay, so any more thoughts or questions about this recommendation? Can I have a mover and a seconder then for the resolution? Councillor DeVolen and Councillor Shell.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Shell. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole received the May 11th staff report on the procurement coordinator recruitment, and that it be recommended to Haliburton County Council that staff re-advertise the position, opening the opportunity for candidates who are not fully qualified, but who are willing to take the appropriate training to fulfill the mandate in the long term. And that it be recommended to Haliburton County Council that staff be directed to negotiate a draft agreement with a neighboring municipality for procurement support and mentorship services.
Do we have a question before we take a vote? Councillor Moffat.
Should we have that next service delivery review discussion before moving ahead with this?
Yeah,
It's a yes, no. It's a yes, no around the table, really.
It's a good point. I also feel a little bit up in the air about the issue of grant writing as well, and that would form part of that discussion. Any other thoughts or questions? Did I see your hand up, Councillor Rowell?
Yeah, I think from our municipality's point of view, Dave's not here, but having said that, I think we would strongly support centralizing procurement. So if the decision at this point in time was to at least try to find out if we can get somebody, never mind anything else, some of the other conversation that we've had with regards to various responsibilities that obviously are going to change from municipality to municipality, I think that could be dealt with later. I would like to find out, is there anybody out there that we could get, period? And if the answer to that is no, then a lot of our other discussions may be mute.
I'm just concerned that we would move ahead with the hiring process and our subsequent discussion somehow change the role of the person that we're looking for. I'll go to Councillor Kennedy and then back to Councillor Moffat.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree. Maybe just delaying this till we find out. I like the concept of having the grant as part of the job description, grant writing and research. I mean, there's so many grant opportunities out there that our staff, as Mike has said, they're working off the corner of their desk. They're missing things, and it's not a slam against anybody. There's just it's complicated, and there's so many sources. The other thing is this an opportunity for an internal hire. Now that we have changed the job format, that we're going to provide training. Is this an opportunity, internal posting first, and then go outside?
That would be our normal practice.
Okay.
Councillor Moffat.
I'm trying to remember. Thank you. It was to Councillor Rael's point is, I mean, you want to clarify the details of the job before you go out for it. You don't want to go out for people and then recraft the job afterwards. So I think that if the need's been identified, the need exists. I don't think it's going to be too much harm or delay, or if we do delay just a little bit, just to have that conversation first, get our ducks in a row. I think that's the logical and common sense thing to do at this point.
Councillor Roberts.
Just a calendar thing. When is our next service delivery review steering committee meeting? Do we know?
Scheduled for June. But I think we had a brief conversation at a meeting this week where, you know, I think with this, you know, where we are in council's mandate, it's getting more and more challenging to have those conversations that really affect the future. So you know, I guess that would be my suggestion would be that would be our last meeting of the steering committee until after the new council takes office.
Councillor Royale.
Yeah, I think the option of growing our own, to be honest, I didn't even think of that. That sounds to me like just maybe the solution to it all is that as we develop what it is that we want to do, then we can look around at the talent that we currently have and see if that there's a fit there. I like that. I like that a lot.
I guess we actually have done that. We've really kind of had those conversations internally. I had that conversation with the local CAOs as well, if there was someone that they would recommend. We really haven't come up with a name, but as I say, our normal course would be to advertise internally, see if anyone's interested, and then advertise externally.
Councillor De Vollen.
Adam Warden, I didn't have my hand up. I guess I'm going to say this now. Service delivery review, single tier government, shoreline preservation bylaw. I couldn't be more disappointed than where we are this late in the mandate and doing a whole bunch of things. And I'll limit my comment to that.
Okay, so at this point in time, we're looking at whether we should delay this for a little bit more discussion at our meeting in June, or proceed. I guess the way to deal with that is to take a vote on the resolution. So you've heard the resolution. All in favor? Against? I'm seeing two people who have not voted.
I'm abstaining.
Councillor Rail.
Should it be
I
a
would choose
recorded
to
vote,
abstain.
Madam Mayor? Madam Warden, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just point of order, when you don't see hands and we're on video, should it just be recorded? It's easier for the clerk to just ask the vote.
That's a good recommendation. Thank you for that. So if we could go through each member and take a recorded vote.
Sorry, but procedurally, I'm not sure you can after the vote has been called. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm going to ask one more time. Against. And Councillor Royale, are you abstaining, or you're voting, or?
Well, I think we should be going ahead with something, and I don't want it to stop. So if that means I'm not sure where I am in that in terms of whether I'm for or against. So.
I'm sorry, but this is a little unusual. Councillor Moffat.
Taking some time to take a second look at the job, given the concerns that have been expressed, is not stopping it. It's just providing some breathing room to get it right. Yes, we're close to the end of our mandate. But that doesn't mean that we just, stop doing things and go home. And anyway, and to the procedural question, I understood that anybody at any time, even after the vote is called, can ask for a recorded vote, but I will defer to the clerk on that. But I thought that anybody could ask any time for that.
Well, we appear to be tied at this point in time, and I'm going to vote against the resolution. and give us some time to have the discussion and make sure we're all on the same page in this particular issue. Understanding that it does create a delay and maybe some difficulties for staff for a little bit longer, but I think we need to get it right. And a tie vote is a defeated vote, if I'm not mistaken. Councillor Shell?
Just to comment, I'm fully behind that if waiting or whatever, but I just don't want to see it put off so far that we don't get it done. That was my only reason for wanting to move forward.
Thank you for that. Councillor Moffat?
Yeah, what we do or don't get done is up to us. Things are already in the budget, so that we may not, run into lame duck. So it's up to us. It's the will of council at this point, and there's 6 months left.
So the motion is defeated. Moving on to our IT status report.
Good morning, Warden Danielson and members of the committee. So today's report is my standard monthly IT status report, showing some stats on tickets received and resolved and where we're at with projects, as well as some other miscellaneous stats. One of the things that's not on the report, I just thought I'd give the committee a brief update on, is, if you recall, brought a report a couple of months ago about restructuring the IT department into a kind of a back end and then a forward-facing units, for lack of a better word. We're well within that progress or process. We've just finished up recruitment for the service desk technician positions, and it's gone well. So hopefully we'll have a couple people in place in a few weeks. And I don't have anything else on the report. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has one.
Well, on the matters of recruitment, that's good news. Thanks, Mike. We appreciate that. Any questions for Mike on the IT status report? Could I have a mover? Go ahead, Mr. Redder.
I'm not moving the motion, I promise. The one thing that council may notice in the report is that Mike is now reporting on the GIS function. And when Charles E. left and we had a vacancy in that role, Mike took over leadership of the GIS. In many municipalities, in fact, in most, I would say, GIS is a part of the IT department. And so that has worked really well. And so we've decided to carry on with that. And so that, anyway, I wondered if anyone was concerned about Mike reporting on that or wondering why, but that is why.
Makes perfect sense. Councillor DeVolen?
Well, thank you. I think this is a great move. Mike does a great job in all regards with what he does, and to see GIS in that portfolio is a wonderful thing. So thank you, Mike March, and I'm glad to see it made permanent.
Thank you.
Could I have a mover and a seconder to receive that report? Councillor Kennedy and Rao.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Ryle. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole receives for information the May 11th, 2022 IT status report.
All in favor? That's carried. Well, that appears to conclude the business of the day. Councillor Roberts?
Just a note, because there's nothing under tourism, but also, did you want to maybe mention that we're going on the 16th to? Good idea. Councillor
Roberts and I will be attending and speaking to the stakeholders meeting that's happening. I think it's on the 16th at Sir Sam's. And I look forward to that and the newly invigorated group discussion. Any other comments that anyone wants to make? Otherwise, could I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn? Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Shell, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Shell. Be it resolved that the May 11th, 2022 meeting of Haliburton County Committee of the Whole now adjourned.
All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Thank
See
you, bye.
some of you at 1